The interview was at noon exactly. I arrived at 11:48 a.m., 15 minutes early, because every job search article says that makes you look professional without being overeager. The lobby was bright, all glass and reflective chrome, the kind of place that looked like a hospital waiting room, and a tech startup had a child. A potted plant in the corner breathed out a faint, chemical scent of mountain breeze. There was no mountain and no breeze. The receptionist checked me in with a bored smile and pointed toward a hallway lined with framed motivational posters. Innovate, disrupt, think bigger. Interview room 4, she said. They'll be with you soon. I walked down the hall. My footsteps echoed too loudly, as if the building were half empty. Room 4 was a frosted glass door with a silver handle. When I pushed it open, the room inside was colder than the hallway. Air conditioning set to Arctic conference. A man sat at the table, legs crossed, a notebook in front of him. He looked middle-aged, with thinning blonde hair combed neatly to the side. He smiled. "Hi, you must be Jordan. I'm Everett." His voice was soft, too soft for such a quiet room. The sound seemed to disappear instead of echo. "Yes," I said. "Nice to meet you." I shook his hand and sat. My chair screeched across the floor a little too loudly. Everett opened his notebook. "Let's jump right in." He asked the basics. My background, my last job, why I left, what I wanted to contribute. It all felt normal. I relaxed into the answers, pacing myself, trying to sound human and confident. But then, at some point in the middle of answering a question about managing conflicting priorities, something tugged at my attention. A pressure, like the air thickened for a fraction of a second. I blinked, and Everett was finishing a sentence I didn't remember him starting. "Which brings me to the next piece," he was saying. "Tell me about a time you had to navigate ethical ambiguity." I swallowed, suddenly thrown off. "Sorry, what time is it?" He glanced at the wall clock behind me. Just after 1. It had been noon a moment ago, hadn't it? I forced a smile. "Sorry, long night. Just making sure I'm present." He nodded approvingly, as if that was the perfect answer. "Continue." I answered the question, something about a project deadline and a data quality issue. But as I talked, a sensation crept in. A faint buzzing in my teeth, like static, and an inexplicable ache behind my eyes. I blinked again. "So, what would you say you learned from that experience?" Everett asked. My mouth felt dry. I cleared my throat. I'm sorry. What time is it now?" 3. A cold shiver crawled down my spine. 2 hours. Gone. Vanished inside 2 blinks. "Is everything all right?" Everett asked, pen poised over his notebook. I considered excuses, migraine, dehydration, skipped breakfast. But what unnerved me was how normal he looked, as if he hadn't noticed anything strange, as if this was all proceeding perfectly fine. "I'm okay," I lied. "Just adjusting." He nodded again. "Good." He flipped a page without looking down. "Let's talk about conflict resolution." I tried to answer. I really did, but my voice felt distant, like it wasn't quite connected to my body. My limbs were heavy, my eyes gritty, my thoughts slow. Something was draining me, or pulling me, or stretching me in ways I couldn't articulate. I blinked. "And was that before or after your reorganization at the last company?" he asked. My pulse lurched. My hands were shaking. "What time is it?" I whispered. 5:15, he said without hesitation. "No." I turned around. The clock's hands confirmed it. I'd been here 5 hours, but the interview questions hadn't changed tone or pace. Everett's posture was the same. The notebook wasn't even halfway filled. Panic fluttered in my chest. Why is this taking so long? He raised an eyebrow. You're doing great, he said. Few people make it this far. Make it where? The midpoint. Midpoint. But it had been noon, and now it was nearly evening. I looked down at my hands. They looked older. No, not older, just tired. Skin slightly duller, knuckles tense. Everett folded his hands. Let's move on to the next question. Tell me about a time you felt truly out of control. My breathing hitched. I need a break, I said. Water, bathroom, something. Of course, he said calmly. Stand if you like. I pushed my chair back. It groaned across the floor like an injured animal. When I stood, my knees popped. Had they always done that? I staggered to the door and pulled the handle. It didn't move. I pulled harder. Locked. Security measure, Everett said behind me, for the integrity of the process. What process? I demanded, spinning around. He looked at me with a faint, almost sympathetic smile. You've been here 5 hours, I said. It came out strangled. You've been here much longer than that, he corrected gently. 5 hours is simply the portion you're aware of. My mouth went dry. What? Time perception is a flexible trait, he said, and we need to know how yours behaves under pressure. This is insane. My voice trembled. What kind of company is this? His smile deepened just enough to reveal something beneath it. Knowledge, age, weariness. We're the type that needs people who can withstand distortion, he said. People who don't break when the hours warp, or when the internal chronology fails to match the external one. I didn't sign up for this. You applied, he said. You kept answering the questions. You stayed. I didn't stay. I couldn't leave. You didn't try until now. A coal pit opened in my stomach. He flipped another page of his notebook. We're nearing the final portion. My voice shook. How long does this last? The interview. He checked the clock. We should be wrapping up by midnight. Midnight, I shouted. That's 7 hours from now. He tilted his head. Is it? I blinked out of instinct. When my eyes opened, Everett's face was slightly darker under the eyes, as though he had aged a bit, but calmly, methodically. It's 9 p.m. now, he said. I stumbled backward, gripping the table to steady myself. No, I whispered. No, I just blinked. Your blinks are not the limiting factor, he said. Time is the variable we are examining. I sank into the chair without remembering sitting down. My mind felt stretched thin, like a wire pulled too tight. How do I stop it? I whispered. You don't. He closed the notebook gently. You simply tolerate it. Something in my vision flickered. I blinked again. And what motivates you to overcome obstacles? He was asking. I jerked upright. Stop doing that. Doing what? You're jumping ahead in time. No, he corrected calmly. You are. My breathing broke into short, trembling bursts. Why me? Because your resume flagged you as resilient, he said. We need someone who can endure temporal inconsistency without losing coherence. I'm not coherent, I said, voice shaking. I'm falling apart. He gave me a look that was almost pitying. And yet, he said softly, you remain. You have not collapsed or screamed or shut down. You are afraid, but functional. He stood, smoothing his shirt. It's nearly midnight, he said. No, it's not. I blinked. The clock read 11:52 p.m. My legs gave way, and I dropped back into the chair. Everett walked to the table, collected his notebook, and turned to me with a small nod. "You stayed longer than the last one," he said. My heart stopped cold. They didn't make it. He didn't explain what didn't make it meant. Didn't clarify whether that was physical, mental, or something else entirely. His tone didn't imply death, but it didn't exclude it either. I swallowed, suddenly hyper-aware of my heartbeat. "So, did I get the job?" I whispered. He paused, tapping the notebook thoughtfully. "That depends," he said. "Do you still know who you are?" My breath caught. For one disorienting moment, I wasn't sure I did. He smiled faintly. "Then you're hired." The room went black. I wasn't supposed to be at the Briarwood office complex. Not on that day, not at that time, not for that reason. The email had arrived at 6:12 a.m. The sender wasn't a domain I recognized. No recollection of applying. No job title I'd ever searched. I nearly deleted it, but 3 details made my stomach tighten. 1. My full legal name, including the middle name I never use. 2. The line, "We look forward to meeting you at 3 p.m. sharp." 3. And underneath that, attendance is mandatory. Normally, I would have assumed it was spam, except there was an attachment. A PDF with a map. A map of a place 5 minutes from my apartment. The rational part of me said, "You're tired, you're unemployed, you're vulnerable. This is how scams happen." The irrational part of me, the part that kept me awake at night replaying job rejections, whispered, "What if it's real? What if you missed the application? What if your future is sitting in that building waiting for you?" Against better judgment, I went. Arrival. Briarwood office complex sounded grand, but it wasn't. 3 squat buildings in a row, built in the 70s. Their windows tinted that sickly brown shade that made everything inside look like a cigarette-stained memory. Building C, the one on the map, had a faded sign by the door. Halloway Group, Suite 304. No logo, no tagline, no other tenants listed. I pressed through the glass door. The air smelled of old carpet and stale AC. A cleaning cart sat abandoned in the corner. The elevator had yellowed plastic buttons that clicked loudly when I pressed the 3. When the doors opened, the hallway was quiet, completely quiet. No printers, no footsteps, no hum of fluorescent lights. Just thick carpeting that swallowed sound. Suite 304's door was open. Someone had written my name, Ethan Marsh, on a paper taped inside the frame, as if to reassure me I was exactly where I was meant to be. I stepped in. The interviewer. The office was empty, except for a single glass-walled room at the end. Inside sat a woman in a charcoal blazer, dark hair pinned back neatly. A leather folder lay open in front of her. She didn't look up when I entered. "Mr. Marsh," she said. My spine prickled. "Yes." "Please sit." I took the chair across from her. No handshake, no smile. She closed the folder with slow precision and looked at me properly for the first time. "We'll keep this brief." Before we start," I said, "I think there's been a mistake. I don't remember applying." "You didn't," she said. My throat tightened. "Then why?" "We invited you. How did you even get my—" "Mr. Marsh," she said, tone cool and firm. "We know everything we need to know about you." That should have made me laugh, or leave, or call the police. But the way she said it, flat, factual, unthreatening. made my pulse stumble. She opened the leather folder again and slid a sheet of paper across the glass table. My breath caught. It was a list of things no one outside my family should know. The scar on my hip from when I fell off my uncle's boat at age 7. The nickname my father called me, Little Lantern, because I used to carry a flashlight everywhere. The name of the dog we buried in the backyard when I was 11. The result of the hearing test I failed in 3rd grade but never told anyone about. My worst fear at age 5, the shadow man in the hallway. My recurring dream as an adult, someone tapping on the inside of the mirror. My fingers went numb. How? I choked. How do you know that? She ignored the question. Do you still have that dream? She asked calmly. No, I don't know. How could you possibly? My voice withered. She flipped the page. More details. More memories I had not written anywhere, had not spoken aloud in 20 years. The time I hid in the school bathroom for an hour because 2 older boys threatened to break my fingers. The exact sentence my grandmother whispered as she died. You'll hear your name before they come. I had never repeated that to anyone. I felt something cold bloom behind my ribs. This is insane, I whispered. Is this legal? Are you CIA, NSA, some kind of background check firm? She shook her head. We are not the government. Then who? Holloway Group, she said simply. That doesn't tell me anything. It tells you enough. She folded her hands, studying me as though waiting for a puzzle piece to click. Let's continue, she said. The questions. What would you say, she asked, motivates you at your core? I shook my head. I can't do this. This isn't. You're motivated by fear, she said. Specifically, the fear of disappointing people. You learned that early. You don't know. You used to hide bad report cards in the neighbor's trash can so your parents wouldn't find them. My blood ran cold. How do you? You preferred to disappoint a stranger rather than someone you loved. That pattern held for decades. She flipped another page. What would you say is your greatest flaw? I stood up. I'm leaving. She didn't react. Your greatest flaw, she said, is that you run when you're overwhelmed. I froze. The air around me felt thick, slow, heavy. My legs wouldn't move. You want to leave, she continued, but you also want to hear what comes next. She was right. Somehow she was right. Sit down, Mr. Marsh. My knees bent against my will. I hated how obedient it felt. She looked at me with something like sympathy. We're not here to hurt you, she said. Then what do you want? I whispered. To offer you a position. I didn't apply. No, she agreed. You didn't need to. The impossible knowing. She opened the folder to the last page. A single sentence filled it. We know who you are, even when you don't. What does that mean? I asked, throat so tight it hurt. You've forgotten, she said. That's the simplest way to put it. Forgotten what? Your role, she said. Your purpose. I think I'd remember something like that. She tilted her head. Would you? Something in her tone, gentle, patient, almost pitying, made my stomach twist. You've lived a very ordinary life, she said. School, jobs, rent payments, breakups, hospital visits. But you've always noticed things, haven't you? Shadows that move wrong. Sounds you can't place. People saying your name when no one is there. My hand tingled. My vision pulsed at the edges. Stop, I said. You were always meant to hear them. Stop. You were always meant to come back. I said stop. Her expression didn't change. You asked your mother once, when you were 6, she said quietly. Who was calling me? My mouth went dry. She leaned forward just slightly. Do you remember what she said? My memory buckled under something heavy and dark and old. My mother, sitting on my bed, her hand on my shoulder. Her voice, a trembling whisper. Don't answer unless they come to get you. I trembled. The interviewer nodded slowly. It's time, Ethan. For what? I whispered. For the job you were born for. I shook my head violently. This is insane. I'm nobody. I work freelance. That wasn't your real work. She closed the leather folder. You start tonight. We've been watching you for a long time. She stood, smoothing her blazer. A faint humming began. Low, resonant, like machinery waking beneath the floor. My pulse pounded in my throat. What job? I whispered. You'll learn on site. Where? She smiled for the first time. Not far from here. Everything in me screamed to run, but my muscles felt heavy, rooted. You don't have to be afraid, she said. You were never alone. We've been watching you for a very long time. The lights flickered. The windows darkened. The air vibrated. Why me? I asked, voice barely audible. She turned to the door, then glanced back. Because, she said, you're the only one who still hears them. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Slow, synchronized. More than one person, coming closer. Your team has arrived, she said gently. It's time to go home. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. Something, many somethings, waited behind it. The handle turned.